in golf clothes today because we just finished an event.
Some of us are in golf clothes.
Some of us, yeah. But what's the cool thing is there's no rules here, and you can wear a t-shirt wherever you want.
I didn't know. You know, I love that style of golf, but I sent a note to Russ before and said, but they said you got to wear collared shirts. So
yeah, that's just to make sure, I guess. There's slight rules and regulations, but for the most part, the only two rules here at Ohoopee are don't be a dick and don't bring a dick. Don't bring a dick. Yeah, the caddy told me that today. Yeah,
in no uncertain terms.
It's pretty sweet. But it's funny, like the reiteration of the same thing has been happening in conversations this week about the ways that we get into a place at one time, meaning how we all are sitting here at this table is pretty wild.
That's crazy.
And it's very,
so wild. That's a whole nother, that's a whole nother level of wild.
Exactly.
Well, especially considering, I first met, you
right
back when I was 13, 14 years old in Hawaii, and I haven't seen you since I was 15.
Yep.
And I pulled this up on my phone looking back at this, but this was after our first dinner together. You put this tweet out in the world.
What's it say?
That's fucking amazing.
Isn't that crazy?
That's amazing. I want to make sure this is what happens. Next time I see you, you'll be old enough.
I may have to need glasses by then.
So this tweet is from, this is nuts.
2011.
January 8th, 2011.
Yep.
And this is, by the way, Twitter's, I don't tweet that much anymore, but in 2011, like if
we were early days.
If I said on Twitter in 2011 that the earth was flat, a lot of people really believed the earth was flat. So I say, dinner tonight with a great young man / golfer at Jeg Coughlin III. Remember the name, my friends.
Wow.
That's sick. I forgot doing that.
That 12 years ago, 13 years ago.
And there was the picture of us back in the Justin Bieber hair days.
That's up at Nanea.
Yeah.
One of my favorite, if not my favorite course and the best place to eat on the Big Island.
That's for sure.
You've grown up, man.
Slowly but surely, we're here.
But he's the same freaking person when he's 15. He's having dinner with 85-year-olds trying to get to know knowledge about the inner workings of their businesses and all this. It's insane.
I don't think you put me up to that tweet. I think I just put it.
Yeah. I remember waking up the next day to that.
Yeah. I didn't put that out for too many 13 or 14-year-olds. Well, you're a good guy.
It's very special to be sitting here with you. So thanks for taking the time. And
fun to play with your dad. And
yeah. And this was your first time at Ohoopee, right?
First time at Ohoopee.
Pretty beautiful golf course.
It's just very special.
Yeah.
Right. The whole, I had an idea or sort of a preconceived idea of what I thought it would be like, but you never know. There's more and more of these courses that look, a lot of people love the game. A lot of, wealthier people love the game, and they build these places that they want to come hang out at, and they want to make the rules. And normally the rules are super chill, as you just said. But I've never seen a place like this. I didn't even know that they had, we gamble. We play a lot of golf and we do a lot of gambling, but it's always match play in a sense. So, the 5-man wolf is kind of match play. Yeah. It is match play. So, but I've never been to a place that's made for that. I didn't even know they did that. But
no tee box markers.
Yeah.
Just pick your hole.
I'm a member of Ballyneal in Eastern Colorado. I go all the time. I've been a member forever. It's a very similar course, very, very similar vibe. But we also don't have tee markers. You just kind of tell the caddy generally what you want to play. It's fescue, tee to green, walking only, and you're in the middle of nowhere. Very similar to this place. Yeah. So it's got a very similar vibe to Ballyneal.
Nice.
Yeah. I was curious too, like obviously it's such a beautiful golf course, and as you're walking about it, like you get inspired just seeing the fairways, and sometimes it inspires better play, sometimes not. But I was curious to ask you, as I was thinking about it today, in your cycling career, how much did the beauty of like the French Alps and these different places that you had these incredible events, did that beauty around you ever inspire your performance, or did you take it in or not?
It's a great question. The answer is yes. But it didn't have to be in the mountains, right? The mountains, that everybody knows that that's going to be beautiful. And where I lived when I, full time, where I would train was in the south of France, but still it's, the Alps still sort of roll down into the south of France. So I could access these mountains and beautiful roads and very remote. I loved it. Like that was just, I got paid to do it. To be, similar to playing great golf courses, and you wake up every day and go, damn, they pay me to do this. And they did. Yeah,
it's crazy.
But even outside, I could be in Burgundy, for example, like me and my director, who was like, my Bill Belichick. We would joke, we'd go pre-ride a time trial, for example, which is an individual stage of the tour. You're out there all alone. And if you're in Burgundy, Burgundy, it's not flat, it's not hill, it's rolling hills. But it's, you smell the vineyards, and we'd stop or whatever and talk about the course. And I was like, it's like, you smell that? Like, you just smell it. I'm like, I fucking love this. Like, I'm gonna be kicking everybody's ass and smelling in this place. And so, but also at the same time in cycling, there's it's a funny story. One year we were, you go to all over the country, and of course the course changes every year. And we went right by Mont Saint-Michel, which is this, famous part of France, an island that you can only access certain times of day when the tide is down. And somebody at the end of the stage was like, man, did you see Mont Saint-Michel? I was like, no. Because you got 200 guys all trying to be at the front. Like, you're not looking around at monuments or tourist destinations. And if you are, then, you're going to get in trouble in terms of, crashing or getting caught out.
Sure. Yeah.
So you've been such an inspiration to so many. And for me specifically, being a professional athlete, trying to be the best in the world at what I do, and growing up, having such an impact on such a huge population with your Livestrong bracelets. I think literally everyone I knew had them on at one point. And I thought it was like the coolest thing ever to have such a huge impact and reach so many and do something that's very simple and cool, but exactly what it is. Can you explain the inspiration behind that? Who had the idea?
We were lucky because it was Nike's idea. So I was a Nike athlete. Livestrong had a relationship with Nike. They were our biggest corporate donor, sponsor, supporter. And so they came to us with the idea of this yellow wristband before the 2004 tour. So that was my 6th tour. And very simple idea. They said, we're going to make 6 million of these wristbands, which is a lot. And we're going to sell them for $1 a piece. And if we sell them all, in honor of the 6th tour, we'll, you guys will get all the money. We'll raise another $6 million. And I was like, I don't know. Like, do I have to wear it? When we started wearing them, people were like, what's on your wrist? Like, it almost, and there were people who joked, they thought that, because we stay in bad hotels during the tour, and some nights they're good, most of the nights they're not good, but somebody even said, like, did you guys stay at one of those all-inclusive places and forget to take off the thing that gets you into breakfast and gets you into lunch? But it just took off. Like and because of the power of Nike, they were already starting to go during the tour in July of 2004. We didn't sell all 6 million, but right after the tour was the Olympic Games in Athens. And obviously Nike has, athletes in every sport, and a lot of those athletes wore them, right? And my favorite memory of that yellow wristband, and when I knew, right, so I'm going all the way from like, this is a pretty corny idea. I don't know that I'm behind this. Then they start selling, and then we get to the Olympics, again, this is 2004, right? So we just invaded Iraq. George Bush is president. Not the entire world, but most of the world is not a fan of America, especially the Muslim world. There was a great Moroccan middle distance runner named Hisham El Gourouch, the greatest middle distance runner of all time, Muslim. Hisham wins either the 1,500 or the 5,000. I can't remember which. He might have won both, but either doesn't matter. He wins the gold medal, and he crossed the finish line and lays down on the track, puts his hands out in front of him just like this and starts to pray. And all you see is a yellow wristband.
No way.
And at that point, I was like, this is working.
Wow.
This is going to work. And that, it was on from there. Sold 80. I mean, I don't know how many we've sold now, but last I checked was about 82 million of them.
No
82
way.
million. Yeah. I mean, I wore one for years. We all did. Yeah. I mean, it was a staple of unity.
Yeah.
You brought people together around a common
And there was a whole
cause.
secondary market. I mean, it's like anything new and cool. I mean, they were $1.
Yeah.
But people were selling them on eBay because you couldn't get them. Once we went through the 5 million, then they had to decide to make more. And people just couldn't get them. I mean, people were flipping them on eBay for $25.
Oh, there were knockoffs.
Yeah, well, then that's the beautiful thing, I'm sure. And we made them in China. I'm sure the place that was like, we're going to make what? And then all of a sudden, they had to make every other color, every other cause.
Yeah, right.
Whoever's stamping those things out over there was like, this is cool.
Yeah, I mean, was there even really a wristband for any foundation before
anything?
That? But that became something across so many
statements.
things. Right.
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, it feels like, the world wants things to unify around, and come together around. And Livestrong was such an incredible mission and foundational element that brought people together, and it feels like, at least in this kind of, we've been talking about this greater awakening that feels like it's been going on post-COVID, that people want to be brought together. I mean, what did it feel like just to amass such a culture around a great thing?
Yeah. Well, we had, we were a cancer organization, but we had the brand of Livestrong is just a great brand. I mean, we would hear from people that said, I don't have cancer. I'm just trying to finish my first marathon or lose 50 pounds or get straight A's or, keep this marriage alive. Right. And that Livestrong resonated with them too. I mean, it was just one of these, it was a great brand. Still is.
Yeah, it is.
On that note and where it all came from, tell us about the journey with cancer and overcoming it, because I'm curious on my own journey here.
Yeah. Well, I think it always, and it surprises me, but I think it surprises a lot of folks. So I was diagnosed let me say it this way. So this year will be my 28th year anniversary.
Wow.
28 years. So almost 3 decades. So having said that, I was diagnosed in 1996. None of us had smartphones. None of us had Google. None of us even had the internet. Now, the internet existed. It was very rudimentary, but you didn't have access to the internet. So I didn't know what to do. Right? I went to the bookstore.
Wow.
I did. And I grabbed pamphlets out of the doctor's office. Like, that was like, fuck. I was like calling, it was like, if I knew somebody that I didn't know that there were multiple types, hundreds of different types of cancer. So I said, this person's neighbor had cancer, and you call them up and I had breast cancer, I had prostate cancer, all different. So I had no idea. Right. And I went on my own journey and I was living in Austin, which of course now is one of the most progressive modern cities, maybe in the world, but certainly here in the US. But we didn't have a major medical center. We did not have, in those days, you had to leave Austin, which I did. Right. I left and ended up in Indianapolis to be treated, of all places. So, but I was totally clueless, but I knew what I did know. You've gone through this, I'm sure, Morgan. I've never deviated from this, right? I bet on people, whether I invest in something, whether I hang out with somebody. I mean, that was really sweet of you to show that tweet. That's a bet on a person, right? I meet this kid, I'm like, I don't just say like, remember this thing. That's a bet on a person, right? So, yes, if you're, as I do now, and the way my firm does it is we bet on people. You invest in people. And so I was investing while I didn't understand, and there were different options, and I just had to sit in a room across the table from 5 doctors and like, are these guys, is this my best shot? Because I was sitting across the table from doctors in Austin, and I said, doesn't feel like my best shot. I then flew to Houston to MD Anderson, which is, is one of the pillars of oncology. And I sat across from that table and I said, I don't think it's my person. So meanwhile, I'm not trying to make money on an investment. I'm not identifying a great young man. I'm sitting across the table going, is this the right person so that I'm here in a year, 5 years, 10 years, 28 years?
Yeah.
And I said, in Houston, these are my people. Got on a plane in Houston and flew to Indianapolis and sat across that table. And I said, these are my people. And I never left.
Wow.
Yeah.
To pause there for a second, I can feel you're very intuitive and in touch with the energy of others, and especially around you when you get in, and you're a very good listener. You look at someone and it feels like you're absorbing. Would you?
It depends on the person.
well, would you? I just think it's really cool. And would you give any advice on how to read people, to be able to trust them in either business aspects or in your livelihood and your going forward with the cancer journey?
I mean, I think I think that's a great question. It's a tough one to answer. It's a spidey sense.
Yeah.
Now, I have been advantaged because I have gone through everything that I have gone through in my life, outside of cancer, outside of success. I've gone through the really negative parts of life, and I've gone through a part of life where, as I refer to it, we walk in this room right here, and there's 50 people that want to hang out, and overnight there was only 10 people in that room. So I've lived through that experience and been able to say, wow, so the 40 that left, what did I miss there, right? So, but even then, I think, I think that's I'm highly tuned to, and my wife always gives me grief. I'm like, I don't like, without naming any, I just don't like that energy. Like and by the way, I've been liberated because of my life experience, and I have managed to reinvent and reimagine a life for me and my family, and I have reimagined it and rebuilt it in a way that I don't have to be around that type of energy. I am the boss.
Yeah.
100%.
That's amazing.
And I've never in that previous life, I wasn't the boss. I was the biggest, and I had a ton of power, and I had fame, and I had money, and I had you name it, but I wasn't the boss, right? I was told where to go. I was, in a way, told what to say, and that the tail wagged the dog, and so I have established things so that I get to choose, and I'm a big believer in that. We only have so much time. You do, Morgan. You do, Jaggy. I do. And look, the three of us. The three of us are sitting here today because we've mutually agreed to give each other the gift of time. And we can also say no, thank you. That's you saying, I'm not going to give that gift because that gift is my time and my presence and this interaction, right? It might sound funny or woo-woo or even arrogant, but it is what it is, right? And so I look at every situation and are we giving this gift? By the way, it also has to be, I'm very aware that I'm not just the one giving a gift. You guys are giving me your gift, right? You've agreed to give me your time. And so that's, I never would have thought of life that way before the downfall. And I even wouldn't have thought of life that way 5 years ago after the downfall. I mean, I've done a lot of work and processing and just understanding it all and trying to be, just trying to be a better dude, a better husband, a better father, a better friend, and all the while establishing or reestablishing myself so that I get to decide who gets the gift today.
Yeah.
Who am I going to ask a gift from? So, and frankly, yeah, I mean, there's folks you just don't take the gift.
Yeah. How special is that to be able to utter those words and say, I'm the boss now?
Yeah, like, it's now I told you I have a wife, so it's not always and I have children. And my kids,
but I mean, you get to decide your daily routine and who you spend your time with.
Yeah,
it's invaluable.
Yeah, it's I have it structured in such a way that it now works.
It's amazing.
Yeah, I bring it to the hat you're wearing too, because I remember when you had first.
Love this logo, Jake.
I do.
Jake almost stole the hat last night.
I've got a couple of them at home. I mean, I remember when you first launched the podcast, The Forward, and immediately, I think it was one of your first episodes. It was just you, and you talked through kind of the meaning of the podcast and why you were doing it. And I mean, this was years ago too.
Yeah, it's been
2017 But I loved, it's an all-time logo in my eyes because you talked about, your life has always been on an incredibly straight trajectory. You've been one of the greatest athletes of all time, are one of the greatest athletes of all time. And you've had this incredible, turn of events in the midst of moving forward as well. Right. And that logo is all time around that too.
Yeah, we say forward, never straight.
Yeah.
But, and I had great folks. Like I love brand. Like I love brand is a very broad word, but I love whether it's a logo, brand guidelines. Like I like nerd out on these things, and I think the greatest brands establish their brand and their guidelines and their ethos, and you never deviate. It doesn't matter. Look at the greats. They never deviate. 100%. And so I hired a guy who I worked with a lot at Nike, a guy by the name of James Selman, who was at Wieden Kennedy, who did all of the branding for all of my commercials. He did all of my stuff at Nike. And so that's who, and I mean, when you see his brand book, so the brand book is sort of the ethos, and then the brand guidelines are any way you use your brand. And there's the yes absolutelys and there's the no nevers. You do not deviate. And so he's a legend.
Yeah, I heard an epic clip the other day on Instagram or something, and it was some Stanford professor. I don't think it was Jim Collins, but it was like a marketing professor of some sort, and he was differentiating a brand versus a business or a logo. And the example that he gave was, if Nike decided tomorrow to get into the hotel business,
right,
you can get a pretty good idea in your head of what that hotel would look like, what it would feel like, because Nike has a brand that stands for so many things that right? Whereas if Hilton decided to get into the shoe business tomorrow,
right, that'd be tough.
Right, you wouldn't even know what the shoe would look like, right? And that was their point. His whole point about a brand is that it's a living organism. It's something that embodies truths and values.
And brands go off track. You see it a lot. True. But I mean, Nike's a special. I mean, that's just Phil did such a great job of. I mean, he's brilliant, slightly crazy, and he's just maniacal about that stuff. And so that's That's just all from him.
What was your relationship like with him throughout the years?
Amazing. Still is great.
Cool.
You know, I don't have a relationship with Nike, but Phil and I are very close. I'm as close to Phil as you kind of can be.
Sure.
But not many people are that close. Phil is a very interesting guy. So he doesn't play golf anymore. You know, he goes between his home in Portland and Madison Club. And he played there for a while. Every time I'd go play Madison Club, we'd have lunch. And I'd see he and his wife walking the course every day. But he doesn't play anymore, but he loves it there. I mean, what's not to love?
Yeah, right.
Yeah, that's true. I've heard it's incredible.
Yeah.
Yes, that's incredible.
To dive back into the discovery and the journey of cancer, we kind of touched on it, but I want to know about when you were first diagnosed and like, were you scared? Were you
totally?
What were your thought processes?
Yeah. How
did you get through the tough times? And when you got out, like, were you reborn per se? And
look, I thought of it, and obviously I was an athlete and still am, but it was an athletic competition, or I equated it to an athletic competition where there was a scoreboard and there was a stopwatch. I think athletes make the best business people, the best investors, the best nonprofit. The athlete's mindset is just different. And so I had this mindset, and I was like, okay, I've gotten this news. Yes, I'm scared, to answer your question. In fact, terrified. I have no fucking idea what is going. I don't know if this thing's like green, red, what's up? Like, I don't know what chemotherapy is. Like, am I gonna I didn't know.
Need to understand it.
I had no idea. And
just as a quick, not to interrupt you, but a quick point of context. How old were you when you were diagnosed?
20. So I was just turned 25.
Wow.
But I had found my person, right? And that person in Indiana was Dr. Larry Einhorn, who's still alive today. He's a legend of oncology. Still a great friend of mine. And so you just trust them, right? You essentially turn your life over to them. But I knew, and I said to him, okay, how are we, so when I went in, I did blood work, I did an ultrasound, and I did a chest x-ray. Like when I was first diagnosed, I'm like, got it. So those are 3 data points. These are our data points. It's like, yes. I'm like, okay. Well, the ultrasound we did the surgery on, that came out. I was like, I think we got that. And I'm like, now I just have to deal with 2 data points, right? Blood work, tumor markers, and chest x-ray. I'm like, okay, I got that. Like, when are we doing it again? He's like, well, we'll do it every 3 weeks. I'm like, fuck. Can we do it every day? Like, come on. Like, I don't want to look at the scoreboard every 3 weeks.
Yeah.
It's like, x-rays, or you can't do an x-ray every day. You should not do an x-ray every day. I'm like, all right, so I got to wait 3 weeks, go in, do the blood work, do the chest x-ray, wait for these to come back. Immediate improvement. I see my tumor marker come way down. I can actually see the chest x-ray. I had 10 to 12 golf ball sized tumors in my lungs.
Wow.
Like the first chest x-ray, I was like, oh, like there's always white in there. These were huge. I'm like, that's not good.
Wow.
Second chest x-ray, they were, noticeably different. I'm like, all right, I just looked at the score. I got to look at this. They let me look at the scoreboard again.
What changed?
Just the chemo was working.
And did you change your diet? Did you change your sleep?
No. I slept. I slept a lot.
Okay.
But I always sleep a lot. And diet is very difficult with chemotherapy, just because you just don't eat much. I mean, it's grueling. It gets worse as you go. I mean, the first cycle wasn't that bad. Second cycle, I'm like, got sick once. Third cycle, sick a lot. Fourth cycle, constantly sick. So food is not. You don't think much about that.
Yeah.
And to combat the nausea, they give you, anti-nausea meds, which make you sleep a lot. So I slept a ton. But I kept getting to look, was looking at the scoreboard, and the tumor markers just kept coming down. Chest x-rays just kept getting clear. I'm like, fuck, man, I'm winning this game. Like, I'm up. Like, I started way down, but now, at some point you're like, all right, I feel like this is tied. And at some point you're like, I'm on top of this.
Here we go.
I got this. To touch on the thing you asked about, was there like the last day that I did chemotherapy, which was probably December of 1996 or January, I can't remember exactly. And I flew home from Indy to Austin. I did not feel like it was over. I was like, and it wasn't, right? I mean, it's and everybody goes through this, right? The journey of a cancer survivor is, they call them, which are real, or called phantom pains.
Oh yeah.
I mean, you probably experience you feel something, whether it's a headache, whether it's it doesn't matter. I mean, any kind of ache, your brain immediately says, oh no, I'm sick again. And that took a long time to sort of live through, but, and then kept getting, checkups. Now I get a checkup once a year. Nice. I mean, I honestly, Morgan, I mean, if you didn't ask me about cancer, this is the crazy thing. It's been 28 years. If you didn't just ask me about cancer, all I thought about today was golf.
Yeah.
No part of me said, wait, am I going to get cancer again?
Yeah.
Or, hey, wait, I had cancer. No part. It's not a part of my life.
That's amazing. Congratulations. I'm sure it took a lot of work to get there.
It took, but that's, I mean, again, it's been 28 years.
Yeah. And so would you attribute your daily life and your routine and your mindset or meditation? What are the things that you attribute to like living the life that you do now? Because you're about to run a race, right? Like in a couple months
I'm looking for some fun things to do. I don't race anymore. I like to push myself. I'm 52 years old.
You like to push cars on a parking lot.
Well, that's another story. I can tell you that story, but and that's actually a real inspiration for just what I'm training for now. I have gotten very serious about training the last 3 or 4 months. I've always trained, but I don't know. I'm in this zone now where I'm training a lot. I'm training every single day.
Nice.
And I really don't have anything to train for. And people now, will I go do things? Yes. Am I competitive? No, I don't need to be competitive. And they're fun to do with friends but I'm training hard enough that people are saying, you must be training for something. Like that's people's default question. And I'm like, no, man, I'm not. And then I felt bad for saying no all the time. And I was like, I can't just say no all the time. I have to say something better than that. I'm like, oh yeah, I am. I'm training just hard enough so that no matter what anybody wants to do, I'll be ready. Yeah.
There's a little competitions here and there.
Whatever you want to show. So I meet this guy, just to the car story. This is crazy. And it really epitomized what I had been thinking. I run into this dude who I'd met one time briefly, and I start talking to him again. And he's a fit guy, South African guy, lives in Austin. And he says, I'm training to break the world record for pushing a 4,000 pound car a mile.
What?
Yeah. 13:26 or 13:27 is the record, which is pretty fast.
13 minutes?
Yeah.
Shit.
So if you go walk around the neighborhood with your wife, you're probably walking a 16, it depends how you walk, but normal people walk a 16 or 17 minute mile. So it's faster than that.
Wow.
Yeah.
And I'm like, I had y'all's reaction. I was like, what? And then immediately I was like, hey man, the next time you're out pushing cars or whatever you're doing to train, I'm assuming you have to go push cars, you fucking call me because I'm there. I'll tell me when and where.
Nice.
So the guy like a week later is like, all right, I'm going out tomorrow morning. I said, I'll be there.
And you did it?
I did it, yeah.
What was it like?
It was not what I expected. It is very hard. We didn't have a mile-long stretch to push. I assumed the hardest thing to do would be to get the car moving.
Yeah.
It gets going pretty. That's not the hardest part. Once you can get a car in neutral, when it's totally flat, you can easily get it moving. But to keep it moving,
takes effort.
Yeah.
I was so sore. I mean, we did like 5 huge efforts, and I went home and just took a nap. I was wrecked.
Damn.
So he's doing it or attempting it in like 3 weeks.
Wow. That's crazy.
Yeah. I want to key into something really specific in that comment you just made, though, because mental health is so important. And what we're talking about is something physical, right? Yeah. But you talked about the need and the question around what are you training for? Uh-huh. How important do you think it is for your mental health to always have something that you're training towards?
I don't think a lot about that. However, what I do think about is I'm just speaking personally, is the process of training for me is therapy. That is good for my, if somebody said you can never go outside, go for a run, go for a bike ride, go for a swim, go in the gym, I would be the craziest person in the world. So it doesn't take a genius to figure out that they're connected. Mm-hmm. And even when I have days where, you're traveling or it's just, you just haven't had a chance to fit it in, I feel that, right? I've lived a crazy fucking life. Like I've had plenty of opportunities to completely go off the rails, and I never have. I've never not that I haven't understood, but I haven't had a moment where there was a true crisis. But what I have had is this consistent opportunity to go out. I mean, if you gave me, tomorrow morning, Sunday morning, I'll be home tonight. Like if I go out, I have to do a podcast in the morning, so I can't do it. But if you gave me the opportunity, let's go right to where you were describing this place. Said, okay, nothing to do Sunday morning, Lance. Go ride 4 hours in the back roads of the south of France, behind Nice. That would be like church for me. That is therapy, and the best way to do it is to do it with my favorite person in the world, and that's myself. Like you can go do it with other people, and that's also fun, but you give me the opportunity to go be alone for 3 or 4 hours. You don't have to go hard. You can go hard. If you feel like going hard, go hard, or you just cruise. But you're alone and you're in this beautiful place, and to me, that's therapy. And I would go crazy without that. And so they are connected, at least for me. And it's my mom, she always, I think she knew it we were both young. She had me young, but I tried every sport, and I sucked at every sport. I said, I can't, I'm not going to play football or basketball anymore. And she said, okay, but you have to pick one. You have to do a sport. I was like, oh God, I'll quit all these sports. So I joined the swim team. And so, but she was adamant. Like she knew, like this kid is a high energy kid. If he doesn't have a place to go release that and to go, whatever it was, her spidey sense, he might go crazy. And so I joined the swim team, and that really was the rest was history for me there. But it's just, I love being in that space. Yeah.
Well, in that history though, I think what probably bonded you and I, when we first met, was a mutual love for our moms. And you probably saw in me, as a kid, just the amount of love that I have for my mom, and how amazing of a woman she is. And she's been such a dedicated mother. And
sweet lady.
Every way that you've ever.
Tell her I said hi?
I will.
Okay, good.
Yeah. And
hopefully she'll listen.
She's an avid listener. Okay, good. She's an avid listener.
Yeah. I don't know if my mom listens to that. I mean, I say too many bad words on my podcast. One time she's like, could you just not say fuck so many times? I said, Mom, this is, I've done the whole thing myself again. I get to do whatever I want. To my point earlier.
Yeah.
Well, some people don't like that.
That's all right.
That's okay.
Yeah.
But no, your mom, please tell her hi.
I will. I appreciate that. And she always loved Anna as well. So, but going back to, when you got into swimming, I know the story and I'm sure many do, but I'd love to hear a little bit chronologically about your story getting into cycling and, what fueled your passion throughout your childhood and becoming the great athlete that you are.
I mean, that was it. I mean, swimming was my, I suppose I also, maybe a year or two after, then joined the track and cross country team. So I had these, again, these aren't big stretches, right? They're people that can play. If you can play football, you can pretty much play basketball and baseball. And I mean, these are very, they're speed sports, they're explosive sports, they're hand-eye sports. You can now you're not going to be an all-star in all of them, but you're going to be good. It's the same for endurance, right? If you have an endurance engine, you can be an endurance swimmer, you can be an endurance runner. And I was, right? So, but it took me quitting these other sports and being forced in a good way to pick one. And I had a couple of friends on the swim team and I was like, well, shit, I guess that's my sport. I'll go try. Now, I was 12 years old. I could not swim. And I couldn't swim with my friends. This was a serious swim team and they're all the way in lanes 1 and 2. And I couldn't swim. I could dog paddle. And so the coach assessed me and put me in the lane. I was like lane 7 or 8 with like the 9-year-olds. I mean, it sucked. I was like, whoa, and all my friends are over there.
Damn.
And I don't know why. Not many 12-year-olds stick it out when you're in the lane with the 9-year-olds, even younger. But I just stuck it out. And 3 months later, I was with the 10-year-old. And anyways, I worked my way up and ended up becoming, when I was in high school, one of the best swimmers in the state of Texas.
Wow.
Still swim to this day. Love swimming more than almost not as much as golf, but I love it. And at the same time, started running track and cross country, and was a good runner. I mean, I won, Texas is competitive in track and cross country. I won the district championships in cross country. Can still run to this day. And then I saw an ad for a kids triathlon. I forget the bread. Anyways, there was a kids series called Iron Kids.
That's cool.
Yeah, and you had to be 15 or younger. And I remember I said to Mom, I said, like, I don't know. I'm already swimming. I'm running. I just got to find a bike. So I found a bike and entered the triathlon and won easily. And then ended up going to the national championship. Got second. I didn't win the national championships. And then I improved very quickly in triathlon. And on a whim, this is in 1987. The biggest triathlon in the world in 1987 was in Dallas, Texas, where I lived. It's called the President's Triathlon. It's sponsored by the Health Club.
Cool.
Franchise. And this guy that I would train with sometimes he said, you should just turn pro and just race with those guys. Because I could definitely swim with them. We know that. He's like, just go turn pro and just see what happens. I'm like, I didn't know. I was like, all right, fuck it. I'll try that. Come out of the water as a 15-year-old with the first group. And the first group was Mark Allen, Dave Scott, Greg Welsh, Andrew McNaughton, like the who's who of, it was the biggest triathlon in the world. Wow. Huge prize purse. Come out first wave or first group in the swim. Get off the bike second. Andrew McNaughton came off first. I was second. Mark Allen was third.
And you were 15.
15 years old. And by the way, they race each other every weekend.
Shit.
And they're like,
what just happened?
The fuck is this person in the race? They had no idea.
This child.
And now what an older guy can do, which I couldn't, even despite running it like I could, a 15-year-old can't run with a 30-year-old off the bike. So I got like 6th or 7th overall. But that was it for me. Then I traveled the world from the age of 15 racing professional triathlons.
Wow.
And I also grew up a fan of sports, all sports, the Big Five in the U.S., the Olympic Games. So like most kids, I dreamed of going to the Olympics. And I was, you just would assume in 1987, 1988, that triathlon was an Olympic sport, but it wasn't. It had not. The first time it was an Olympic sport was not until 2000. And I'm looking at this going, all right, these guys aren't going to get in the games, but I want to be an Olympian and try to win a gold medal for my country. I'm like, not going to happen. So I switched to cycling. In full time in 1990 and went to the games in 1992 in Barcelona.
You were 20-ish then?
Barcelona, I was, just before my 21st birthday.
Wow.
So.
And how'd you do?
Not good. Yeah, well, I didn't win the gold medal. We would be talking about that.
That's all that matters, right? I guess.
No, I mean, and I was new to cycling. Cycling's not a sport. If it's a one-day race, I don't know how to equate it to golf. I mean, it'd be like playing one hole.
Really?
Versus 72. Yeah, it's a one-day race versus the tour, which is 3 weeks.
Right.
You know, you can have moments of weakness and make up for it, et cetera, et cetera. And I didn't, and also it's very strategic. Like I didn't know that I had not learned the strategy and the dynamics of what it's like to race 200 other guys for one day. Now I could do that today from a strategy standpoint, but it was still new to me. And then, and then not long after that, I mean I went to the Olympics again in Atlanta, and I was diagnosed 2 weeks after the games in 96.
Wow. I was there.
Yeah.
Still have a jacket in 96 Olympics. My aunt lived in Alpharetta there in outside of Atlanta.
Suburbs, yeah.
I don't know. I was 7 years old. And I remember it like it was yesterday somehow. It was so special to me.
Yeah.
I know we're limited on time today. I have a few questions and I want
to see this is good. We'll do part 2. If you guys will have me, we'll do part 2 in Austin.
No, it'd be
Jackie, you weren't here, but I told Morgan and Russ that, or at least this is Russ's idea. I don't know. He's like, I want to get Morgan to Austin. You should come through Austin.
Yeah.
There's a bunch of wacky, crazy characters there to have on the show.
Yeah, a bunch of friends.
And y'all just use our studio.
Awesome.
Because it's there and it's easy. You just sit down, and we have guys like this that sit around. And you can bring these guys too.
Sweet.
But all the shit's there. You don't have to do anything.
Thank you.
Thank you.
But what you said earlier, the phrase of being your favorite person and riding with your favorite person, that really sticks. That really sticks with me because I'm trying to teach people who are trying to heal themselves to be their favorite person. And frankly, it's very hard for people to understand how to love themselves.
Yeah.
And I think love is the most powerful energy that there is on the planet. And if you have it for yourself, you have a exponentially higher possibility of accomplishing what you want physically, mentally, in your soul. And I want to know how and when you accomplished self-love. Was it from a kid and you were like, I'm looking out for number one all day, or is it something you learned over time?
No, I mean, and let's not, I think it's important. I understand the question. I think it's important not to confuse the two, because liking to be alone is different than self-love, I think. Now, is somebody that is closer on the spectrum that way of truly knowing self-love more comfortable being alone? Of course. And there's other people that just like to be alone. Yeah. I don't always want to be alone, but I don't complain when I'm alone. Now, how do you get to this? I'm not going to sit here and tell you that because I do like to do things alone with my favorite person, which is me, means that I have completed this journey to self-love. I haven't. I've spent a ton of time understanding my life, the impact it's had on other people's lives, the mistakes that I've made, the legacy that will sort of write its own narrative over time. That to me has been the most important part. And I speak a lot about this. I mean, a fair amount of work / reflection on me. I think that's important.
Extremely.
And I also speak to the extent at which I have gone towards that. And I think, like most people, I mean, there are Band-Aids, right? Couch therapy once a month, once a quarter. Those are Band-Aids. And then there's surgery, straight up surgery.
It's hard.
And, so I've had the Band-Aids. The Band-Aids weren't working. So I needed surgery. And so I've gone heavily down that road, not to the extent of, certain journeys like I suspect we all are aware of, although I'm certainly not opposed to that. 100% would do that. But super intensive, multi-day, one-on-one, 10-hour-a-day journeys.
Going inwards.
Yes. And just, and it's funny. I mean, in fact, our friend Cal, is who I love. I said on his show, probably a month ago, not even a month ago, I referenced some of this work that I've done. And it doesn't also just have to do with the downfall of my career. I never met my father. I had a shitty stepfather. These are all things that if you're talking about trauma, stack up in one's life. But you can't go from being the most powerful, most famous, most influential, most well-known athlete in the world to a disgrace overnight without a significant amount of trauma, and that's PTSD. Now, I think it's been branded. I know that it has been branded something really and only specific to the military, which is fine. I mean, if there's another way to call it, it's the same thing. It's that level of trauma. Sure. And so I talked about it on Cal's show, and then it was on CNN, and it was everywhere. Lance Armstrong says he has PTSD, which, by the way, I don't give a fuck.
So many people do.
I don't give a fuck what CNN or anybody says.
Yeah.
I just know how I feel, and I know the work and the steps that I have gone to so far, because this process isn't done for me, to unpack that. And I'm committed. And, I was one of these guys that, 20 years ago, I'd been like, what? I'm not doing that. Even 10 years ago, I'm not doing that. And it just, you can't take it anymore. And you're like, fuck it. These Band-Aids aren't working. I need surgery. The most important thing with any of these journeys, and this with folks you've worked with, and if it comes down to one simple question, is, are you ready to surrender?
Spectacular.
And if you don't want to surrender, if you're not ready to surrender, whatever it is that you think you are or that you want to be, if you can't surrender, it won't work. And so I finally got to the point where I said, I surrender.
Wow.
But
it takes a lot to get there.
And there's no, by the way, there's not there's no light here. There's not some, you don't get, at least for me, I don't, it's like I'm messed up. I'm a fucked up, complicated, crazy guy. I don't ever think I will ever get to a place that's like, okay, I'm done. I think this is as far as I'm concerned, this is a lifetime's commitment.
It's a journey.
And I love it. Like, I crave it. Like, even now, I think it's been a year since the last time I went. I mean, I do a 5-day, fully detached, disconnected, 10 hours a day sessions.
Wow.
And it's been about a year, and I'm like, man, I think it's time again. Like, I love it. Yeah. I love it. I mean, you can hear it in my voice. I love talking about it. I love the guy I work with has just been, he's a fucking magician.
Would you be able to share who that is?
His name is Mark Pemsl. Well, back up. So the first time the first place that I went, again, when I was willing and ready to surrender was a place called Onsite in Tennessee. It's about an hour outside of Nashville. And when I went to Onsite, which is they do amazing work. You can do a group session, you can do one-on-one. By the way, there's a lot of great places. I mean, Hoffman is great. I don't know if you're probably familiar with Hoffman. It's a group thing. I know me, right? And my wife went and did Hoffman. She loved it. But I'm thinking to myself, like, if I'm ready to surrender, but am I truly going to surrender around 30 strangers? I know you, Lance. Are you really going to surrender in front of 30 people? Because if you're not 100% sure, then don't go do that.
Yeah.
So I went to Onsite, which is, it's amazing. So I did one-on-one. Anyways, my therapist there was Mark Pemsler. Now, Mark is no longer at Onsite. He's out doing his own work and it's very similar. I call him Magic Mark. Like, he's my guy.
Oh, look him up.
Yeah, he's amazing. Yeah, I'm happy to share Mark. Mark, are you kidding me? He's become, by the way, amazing life journey. Former serious addict, was done, right? Until at some point in his life, he surrendered and he got clean, went and got his PhD, and he's doing amazing work, and he's absolutely changed my life.
Wow.
But they're like, when I say I miss it, I mean, I'm literally saying I miss Mark.
It's that time.
He's such a special guy, and it's special work. And I like the tricks of that type of work. This isn't like, okay, Lance, sit on the couch, or okay, Morgan, okay, Jeggy, sit on the couch. We're going to talk. Here's a box of Kleenexes in case you start crying. That's some of that. Right. But there's other mechanisms and tactics. I mean, you can role play. Here's the thing, get dressed up. Or Jeggy, you and I swap places, and I'm gonna be you and you're gonna be me, and I'm gonna talk to you. There's just things, brain spotting. There's a lot of things. I love that kind of just trying out different stuff.
Yeah, that's cool.
Yeah, there's a great book that I read not long ago, and I'm gonna blank on the author's name, unfortunately, but it's called Bad Therapy, and it was essentially around the softening of this next generation because of, in a lot of cases, bad therapy. They said in the school systems where, people or kids are having this opportunity more than ever to sit down and talk about these labeled issues in their life and feel very bad and kind of sad about these things so early on before they can even know psychologically what these things actually are. They're being told they have PTSD at 12 about something. But in the same breath, you talk about the need to go inward and look at these things that are coming up for you. And I'm curious, Magic Mark in this case, when you leave these sessions with him, why is the work worth it? And what is the feeling that you leave afterwards with?
My biggest takeaway, I'm exhausted. If you do it right, you're going to be exhausted. And by the way, when I say it's 10 hours a day, if you're tired and you need a little break, you have to say, I need a break. Right? I'm going to go take a nap, or I'm going to go walk around the block. You don't have devices, so you're not going there.
That's
but
nice.
If you need a break, take a break. And when you're ready, let's go. We'll go again. So I'm exhausted when it's over. But if even now when I think back, it's a great question. What has changed for me? And it's not anything that I ever would have thought about. It's just this, and you hear folks talk about it, but it's true. This elasticity in and around your thought, your ideas, your habits. For me, look, I've not been a perfect guy. In fact, many times I've been a really shitty guy. And so, but these, there are no right angles there. Right. And so this awareness of as you step into something this doesn't feel right. And so it's the elasticity part has been super important for me. And it's helped every aspect of my life, whether it's my wife, my children, my friends. I can't believe it took me this long to find it. And I guess maybe I should believe it, because back to my original point, you know, I had a great friend who went, who sent me to On-Site, and he had talked about it, and he had a lot of issues, and I won't get into that, but when he dropped that on me, and he's a buddy, like we play golf and we gamble and we fuck around and we've been buddies forever. And when he said, "Don't go if you're not ready to surrender," I was like, holy, okay. I mean, I lost it.
Wow.
I mean, I knew I was like, okay, this is serious.
Yeah.
But
wow.
But this is why I fucking love Lance Armstrong, because like you, and it goes back to your hat. Like, you've moved forward with your life. You've accepted what you're sitting here with humility talking about, you know, some incredibly hard scenarios that literally no one on earth can really relate to what you have been through.
Yeah.
And I appreciate your humility in it so much, and your ability to move forward and become a better person and become a great, you know, continue to be a great father and a great husband in your life. You've accepted what's happened in your life. You've taken it on the chin and continue to move forward, and been an inspiration because of it in my eyes.
Yeah,
I agree.
Yeah, I mean, that's, you know, I joke sometimes, it's in the vein of loving to hang out with yourself, but I get questions. I'd speak a lot and go around, what was it, you know, what's it like? You know, I said, what do you mean, what's it like?
Yeah.
I said, listen, man, I fucking woke up today as Lance Armstrong. And I'm going to go to bed tonight as Lance Armstrong. And I love that. Like, I love it. There's no part of me that does not love. Now, is it complicated? Sure. But shit, I'm not changing anything. Yeah. And I also feel I was uniquely suited to survive this. I don't think many people could have survived what I did. And again, so many things I'm not proud of, so many things that I don't like about it. None of them, that you get caught saying, well, I wouldn't do that again, or life's not like that. We don't get do-overs. There's no mulligans in life. Or you fucked it up. Okay, well, go figure it out. Like, but I don't think many people could have done it.
Yeah.
And in the vein of self-love and all of these things, I get to say that I'm proud of myself.
It's amazing.
You do, right? Now, why was I? Certainly, I think there was some DNA there. My mom was tough as nails, had me when she was 17, got pregnant when she was 16. The whole world in Dallas, Texas said, oh, the abortion clinic is over there.
Wow.
She said, fuck all y'all. I'm having this baby. Right. So I'm already learning this in the womb.
Right.
She also is having a really shitty life with an abusive husband and an entire community that turned against her. So she's also suffering, which I'm absorbing. But all of this stuff adds up to what we're all sitting here today. And so but yeah, man, I look at it and I'm like, I'm pretty proud of that.
Well, I'm reminded of the scene in, you know, one of the first major documentaries that came out, The Armstrong Lie, which you were a part of. I started a part of it.
Okay. That documentary started before, you know, that was originally, yes, I was a part of it. That was like
it turned into,
you know, that was like Jordan's Last Dance, which, you know, he was involved in, and then it quickly shifted.
Yeah.
And then I wasn't a part of it, which is okay. It's okay.
Well, regardless, where I was taking it, the final scene where you're in your living room and the 7 gold jackets are around you, and in this moment of saying, like, the pridefulness around that, like, that's something, those jackets hanging will always be there.
Yeah.
And beyond that as well, like,
and they're still there.
And with Livestrong, you know, it's one of the, I mean, you're truly one of those philanthropic humans on earth, with over $500 million raised through Livestrong.
It's insane. I was gonna, after you shared that about your journey and your mother and going through all of this, I think certain people are born into certain families, into certain lives, because there is no one else that can handle it. Like you were born into this soul because whatever it may be, whatever you believe in, the universe, the higher power knew that you could take it and lead from it. And if you couldn't, then it'd be what it is. But now you're changing and becoming out better from it, and teaching others and sharing your story and changing lives. And it's just, we appreciate it, man.
Yeah. I mean, I think before we go, it started very simply. When everything fell apart, I looked around and I was like, again, we're in this room with 50 people, 40 are gone, there's 10 people left. I'm like, I have that. I have these 10 people. I looked at my house and I was like, I've got these 5 children. So that's important.
So important.
I have my wife. Very important. I'm losing everything. I'm getting sued left, right, and center. I don't know that I'll ever have a penny, but I can't give up on those 10 people that stayed in the room, and I cannot give up on those 5 children and my wife. So I have to now. Could I have completely lost the plot? Absolutely. Left the family. Just, I'd be on the street. Or you say, man, I'm going to hang in here. I'm not going to quit. I don't know what this is going to play out like, but I'm not quitting. All right. I'm going to be here every morning and every evening to hug these kids, to whatever, and to have them hug me back. Look at me. Like, that's my dad. I said, I'm not messing that up. Right. And so, they were my big, but I had a lot of my peers who went through very similar things in their respective countries that lost it all, lost their lives.
Yeah.
Many of them lost their lives. And so, to your point, Morgan, as tragic as that is, and as terrible as that is, it was too hard. They just missed whatever it was. They missed recognizing that there were those 10 people in the room. They missed, maybe they didn't have 5 children. Maybe they, had a wife or 1 child. They missed going, I got to hang in here for that. And for them, which means me. And so, yeah. No regrets.
Wow. Yeah. I'm reminded too of one of our last conversations with fellow cyclist Camilo Villegas. And
oh God, he's more a cyclist than he's a fucking good cyclist.
Yeah. Oh yeah.
Dude, I don't want to ride with that guy.
No, he's an animal.
No, he's straight up animal.
He's absolute machine.
Stone cold killer. No, he's legit. Yeah. Anyways,
but the point is he has dealt with loss in his life to a level that's incomprehensible for most. And the thing he talked about though was, at the end of the day, accepting reality and moving forward with what is. And I think there's a somewhat of a parallel there in what you're just describing.
He's a wonderful, wonderful guy.
Yeah.
I love that guy. But
I have 2 last questions. Okay. One, I'm very curious about to know what in your eyes, what your best accomplishment is in life.
I think we just said it. I can't say. I mean, look, the easiest way to answer that for me is, where have you been the most proud of yourself? And I just said it. Being able to hang in there and overcome what nobody thought was possible, and defeat or to overcome all of the odds. I am proud of that. I really am. And I love myself for that. And that could sound a little goofy, but I do. Like, when you consider the alternatives and you consider the odds, and I just, it's been 11 years. If you would have told me 11 years ago, look, dude, this is going to suck for a second, and then it's going to, but in 11 years time, this is what it's going to be like. It would have been hard to believe.
Yeah.
Nobody would have believed that.
Yeah.
So I'm very proud of that, and I'm very grateful that I was able to recognize those 10 people in the room, my family, and just not give up.
Yeah.
just, never, I mean, as my mom says, I didn't raise a quitter. She says that all the time. Your mama didn't raise a quitter. I know, but it's just never give up on that.
Amazing. Well, we're respectful of time, and what we started with in conversation is time is invaluable and
part one,
a very huge form of currency. Yeah. And we'll finish this part one here with the last question. I think we can ask it again and see if it's changed, but is there any time in your life where you felt like you can fly? And what does the phrase "I can fly" mean to you?
Boy, not yet. I mean, I've not, it would have been easy. I mean, think about my life in 2004, 2005. 2005, I win. 2004, I break the record. I'm dating a rock star. You have more money than God. People in the stands are like, that dude looks like he's about to take off and fly.
Yeah.
I didn't feel that. By the way, I'm sitting here in 2024 with you two guys. I have a better chance of flying out of this room by far than at the height of my career.
Wow.
100%.
I have goosebumps.
100%. And looking back on it, yes, I mean, people, like I said, dude, that guy's about to take off. Literally. I couldn't, no. There were no wings. There was no fuel. There wasn't a runway. But I haven't. I'm not gonna fly out of this room. But if that's a thing, I would be closer to. It's not close.
Just because.
But I've never been asked that question. I love that question. I might borrow that at some point. But, and that's okay. Like, dude, that life wasn't normal and wasn't tested. I mean, it's tested as an athlete, but that's why I love talking about my life. I love getting the question. I've gotten so much shit over the years. Well, if you had to do it all over, would you do it again? Mm-hmm. I said, what kind of question is that?
Yeah.
As I just told you, there are not mulligans in this life. Like, what do you want me to tell you?
Exactly.
Something so you can feel better about yourself. Exactly. And like, I'm not a poster. Mm-hmm. Dude, I'm a dude. I've lived a fucked up life.
Yeah.
We don't get do-overs.
Yeah.
I made the best of it. So as you get to that point, all of the stuff, and again, this is what I'm saying, like, that's maybe that point that I referenced earlier is an impossible place to get to, where it's like, okay, we're done. Like, I have found it and I could fly. Mm. I'm not there yet, but I'm damn sure going to keep trying.
Amen.
Man.
Wow.
That's
and don't tell anybody, but I am going to fly us home.
And wrap.